Hi, my name is Judge, and welcome to part number 4 of our Murder at Castle Nathria Arena card review. We've got 21 more cards in this video. Let's get started with a 3-mana, 4/3 Rogue Epic Battle Cry. If you control a secret, choose a card in your opponent's hand to shuffle into their deck. We've seen a Demon Hunter Legendary, Star Student, Stellina, I want to say, with a similar effect, and that card had Outcast and was very good. And I believe it was actually a 4-mana 4/3, wasn't it? Oh my goodness, the stat creeping over here. And that card was very good. The ability to make your opponent discard a card of your choice is quite powerful. So, quite simply, 3-mana 4/3, is that a good enough stat line on its own? Not as good as a 3/4 in most metas, but it's acceptable. And then, if you have a secret, this card's insane. So, I think that we've seen a lot of different metas with Rogue. Some have had 0 secrets, some have had a great list. Very likely seeing this card, we're going to see some more secrets as we continue our review. If there's a lot of them, this card will be insane. If not, it'll be fine. It's a fine curve piece, and it might be something fun to try to go for. Maybe, if... Who knows, if Scholomance comes back into the arena and there's Wand Thief and you can get a Mage Secret and you can pull some stuff off there to get this effect going. The upside of this card is so high that I think it might be worth going for if there's enough like Discover in the meta. Other than that, okay curve piece. It's going to be fine in the worst of metas and amazing in the best. Next we get another 3-mana 4/3, this time a Priest Legendary, the Harvester of Envy. After you play a card copied from the opponent, steal the original. As if Priest couldn't get any worse, we get the Harvester of Envy. 3-mana 4/3. For a Legendary, you're looking for a little more than just that stat line, so you're probably going to play this as you play another copy of your opponent's card. And all you need is one, and this is pretty good. Gotta be careful you're not just going to miss curve entirely by going for these greedy Priest plays. But all you need is one, and this card pays for itself. And if you get more than one, oh man, is your opponent going to uninstall? I gotta say, Priest is always a love-hate thing. I love that I hate it, and I hate that I love it. And I'm going to both love and hate playing this card. Looks like it could be very strong, just with a little tiny bit of synergy. Doesn't need much. Next we have a 2-mana 1/1 Maze Guide. Battlecry, summon a random 2-cost minion. So this, of course, is the same as the 1-mana Lackey that you can get that summons a 2-cost. So the question is, would that Lackey still be good and draftable if it were 2-mana? And I think the answer is definitely yes. Nothing fancy, nothing special. It's going to be roughly better than a Murloc Tidehunter, which is good. You get a 2-mana 3/3 on the board, a Shrubadier. That's great. Shrubadier is a great 2-drop. So I think this will be solid. You're going to be very sad when you hit a 1/1, of course, and it's going to be not very good. But there's also, going to be some big... in fact, I don't think we've gotten into it yet. We might actually later in this video. But there's a pretty big Millhouse-sized 2-drop coming that you can high roll into, even a couple other little bit of overstated 2s. Usually, though, it's going to be about a Shrubadier, and that's very good. So Maze Guide will be, on average, good. Next, we've got Natural Causes, 2-mana nature spell from Druid. Deal 2 damage, summon a 2/2 Treant, and I feel like this card is just absolutely insane. This card is absolutely bonkers. And I feel like a lot of people look at this card and go like, oh yeah, that looks strong. Yeah, 2-mana 2/2, solid effect. This card is absolutely beyond belief in power to me. This card's going to be so good, it's going to be an auto pick. The fact that you can get the effect... what is there? I mean, look at Fireplume Phoenix, which was still a draftable within this year, and now you get it for half price. You -1/-1. That is somewhat of a big deal, but for 2 mana, like, this is a steal. There's also the card that is the Freebooter, the Pirate, that if you have a weapon equipped, it's this card, and that card is insane. And you have to equip a weapon, and it's got to, still have to do something to make it happen. This is unconditional and extremely powerful, and it's a nature spell. This card is one of the... To me, I look at this and see this as one of the strongest cards that we've seen, and Druid is very happy to have this crazy 2-drop. Next up, we have a 6-mana 3/6 neutral Bog Beast. Taunt. Deathrattle, summon a 2/4 Muckmare with Taunt. Interesting. I think you look at this card, see a 6-mana 3/6, and go, that can't be good. Not in this day and age. And I think this is going to be a card that people underrate. I think this is going to be pretty decent. Pretty decent. We've got a card that's very similar to Sludge Belcher. Very comparable to Sludge Belcher. And just like the idea of like splitting 2 high health for the cost bodies can be a very strong defensive play. You know, your opponent doesn't have a silence or hard removal for it. It can do a lot of damage with that high health. And that 2/4, like, that's a relevant amount of health, 4 health. I think it's a good amount of stats on a 6-drop. I think this is going to be a 6-drop you're absolutely happy to pick up. Of course, there's some pretty high roll 5s, and if they play a 4 or 5 minute 6/6, this is going to look a lot worse. So we'll see just how common those extremely overstated 5s are in this coming up meta. But in general, I think that this should be a pretty good amount of stats for 6 mana. Not a bad card. Moving on to a 3-mana 2/4 Taunt in Paladin with the text, Battle Cry, discover a Paladin card. Muckborn Servant. This card's insane. And I cannot imagine a world where this card is not nuked in offering rate. There is no way. They recently, in the last meta before Murder at Castle Nathria, did a big patch reducing the likelihood of all Discover cards because it was getting so out of hand. So many Discovers into banned cards, hero cards, legendaries that were just winning the game on the spot. And that's what this card will do, given the right metas. There's Cariel, there's Uther, there's, you know, the Leviathan that you can find. And you're not going to find them every time, but there's a lot of amazing options that the offering rate from in draft is not going to apply to. So this card's going to be absolutely bonkers, and the stat line's fine. The stat line's fine. It's not insane. It's no 3/4 taunt, but it's fine. This card will probably either be already nuked in offering rate when we start the meta, or it will be after some time. I'm sure of it. Next, we have a 1-mana 1/1 Baddie Guest for Hunter. Deathrattle Summon, a 2/1 bat. This card's amazing. We've got a lot of good cards here. This card's amazing for a lot of reasons. One, there's a lot of stats in this 1-drop. Great. You get a sticky minion that you can keep poking a little bit of damage at the face with, starting right from turn 1. That's great. Also, we are now in Infuse meta, and this card is about the best for Infusion that you're going to find. Great stats, 3/2 packed into a 1-drop with double the Infusion. This is going to be a staple 1-drop for Hunter this meta, and one that I'm going to have a real hard time turning down when I draft Hunter. Really, really strong. Continuing our theme of strong cards in this review, moving on to 3-mana 3/4 Forensic Duster. Battle Cry, your opponent's minions cost 1 more next turn. It's only 1 more. How bad could it be? This card is, at worst, a Spider Tank, which again is still very playable. But it's never going to be a Spider Tank. When is there a single turn in Arena on your way to 8 mana that your opponent doesn't want to play all of their mana and a minion, right? Like, unless you play this right into the perfect single spell that they were going to play anyway, then this is going to be insane. You coin this out, and then your opponent can't play their 3-drop? What if they don't have a 2? Even if they do play a 2, they play a 2/3, you clean it up. It's this card is insane. Missing Curve is a big deal, and this forces your opponent to do it. This card is single-handedly going to make me, as a common, draft more 3-cost spells, so I actually have a way to stay in the game after Duster comes down. Next, we have 2-mana 2/2 Sketchy Stranger. Battle Cry, discover a secret from another class. This card reminds me a bit of Wandmaker, but is it better or worse than Wandmaker? Because you don't have to be stuck with secrets, but if you're not a mage, the option to get mage secrets is fantastic. There's going to be new rogue secrets, of course. Hunter secrets, that's good value. That's a great value card. Even if you get stuck with like having to take a paladin secret, you look at Wandmaker, sometimes that happens, it's okay. You get to discover, so worst case is you get the best of 3 bad choices, and that's not terrible when it comes to a 2-mana 2/2 in the arena. So I wonder, I don't know if I want to say there's going to be a stronger Wandmaker because studies and Scholomance and stuff like that, but I think it's going to be comparable. Quite strong, definitely something I'm going to want to pick up. Anything with the discover keyword is often something you want to pick up in the arena. Next, we have a 5-mana 6/5 Beast, Sin Runner, Deathrattle, destroy a random enemy minion. So right away we look at this and we remember there was a 5-mana 6/5 Battle Cry, destroy a random enemy minion if you had a dragon. and that card was insane. But a Deathrattle is far different from a Battlecry, and I think this card's going to be overrated. Only 5 health on a 5-drop. The stats, it's fine. Like, it's not ever going to be a card you're sad to have. It's a solid 5 cost. But we've seen a lot of really strong 5s in the last few metas that I don't think this compares to. The thing is we're in an infused meta. I could see a lot more tokens, a lot more getting wide, where Sin Runner would rather see some big minions. I compare this card a lot to Taurajo Brave. I think that card is very similar. It's solid, the effect is good, it's a threat, and sometimes it can be insane. But usually it's just a solid stat line with an effect that needs to have the, you gotta have your eye on the effect. Notably with Druid's location card, this would become pretty nuts. But on its own, it seems good. Seems good. Next, we have a 2-mana 2/2 Spirit Poacher. Battlecry, summon a random Dormant Wild Seed. So, the Dormant Wild Seeds that are possible, there are 3 different Wild Seeds that you can get at random, and they are as follows. There is Fox Spirit Wild Seed, 1-mana 3/1 Dormant for 1 turn with Rush. Bear Spirit Wild Seed, 2-mana 2/5 Dormant for 2 turns with Taunt. And Stag Spirit Wild Seed, and this is where it gets really good, 3-mana 5/4 Dormant for 3 turns. When this awakens, equip a 4/2 Great Bow. So that would be a 2-mana 7/6 equip a 4/2 weapon. 2 mana. Yeah, you gotta wait 3 turns. How big of a deal is that? For that many stats, I'll wait 3 turns. This card has to be one of the best cards I've ever seen in my entire life. So many stats. Yeah, sure, you're not going to roll the best Wild Seed each time, but even the worst Wild Seed, that on its own is a 2-drop that is good in Redgill Razorjaw. Like, it's already so insane at its worst, and it just gets even more and more mind-blowing. The card is absolutely nuts, a complete auto-pick. And I don't know, will this be nerd? I have to imagine this is going to be absolutely insane and constructed as well. Crazy, crazy card. Possibly the best I've ever seen. And we're not done with Wild Seeds yet, so it gets better later on. But this card, do not turn it down. Do not turn this down. Bear, Bloodseeker have nothing on Spirit Poacher. Next we have a 5-mana, 3/5 neutral. Famished Fool, Battlecry, draw a card, infuse 4, draw 3 instead. This is far less good. This is far less exciting than the Wild Seed. And it's far less, I don't know. It's a 5-mana 3/5 draw card is not good. So at its worst, it's not good. And to have to infuse 4 into it, is that worth it? Depends on your class, probably. If you're getting a really light tempo deck, this could be even at the top end to refresh, and that's pretty good. As a top deck, if you're already out of steam, it's not the worst. You get to keep refreshing, a much worse big ol' whelp. So I think this is going to be worth running in some token decks. And because a 5-mana 3/5 draw 3 is insane. You got a big swing here on this card. But it's just, is it worth the risk when you could draft something a little more consistent? Depends on your list. If you've got a better infused deck, then I'd say go for it. If not, maybe just something a little more consistent. Next, we have a card I was talking about earlier, or referencing earlier with our Maze Runner, and that is a 2-mana 4/4 Bibliomite. Battlecry, choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck. It is a Demon Hunter card, and it's rather large. Now, here's the problem. How bad is it to choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck? It's bad. It's a lot worse than I think people think. You look at a card like, formerly known as Succubus, now known as Queen Demon, the Queen, and it sucked. It sucked. It was a 2-mana 4/3, discard a card at random, and it was terrible. Terrible win rate. You never picked it up. And this is definitely better. You get 1 extra health, and you get to choose the card, but just -1 card is tough. I don't think that without synergies with this card is going to be good. It'll be better than the Warlock card, but I do not think this is going to be good despite its outrageous stat line. Without some sort of synergy, without some sort of... We'll see a couple potential synergies with this later on, but without them, I don't think this is going to be good. Next, we have 2-mana Serrated Bone Spike. Rogue spell, deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, your next card this turn costs 2 less, which would kind of make this free, which would kind of make this a 3 damage backstab in some cases. I think that's a good way to look at it, is it's a sometimes better backstab. It's consistent, you can always just deal 3 damage for 2 mana, and that's fine. Can't go face, which Rogue does sometimes like these burst cards to go face, which is a little bit of a point against it. But if you play this on turn 2 to kill their 2-drop and you develop your own, that's good tempo. Costs you 2 cards, so, you know, maybe running out of steam pretty quick, but that's what Rogue does, is they generate quick tempo and look to keep it that way, even if it costs them an extra little bit of resources. So I think this card will be not as good as Backstab, but still quite strong, is what I think there. Next we have Suspicious Alchemist. 1 mana, 1/3, Battlecry, discover a spell. If your opponent guesses your choice, they get a copy. We saw this effect with priests and legendaries, and likewise, I think this looks very similar and also very fun. Mage has some really good spells, and it's going to be mind games to try to get your opponent not to guess yours. Remember, your opponent gets to guess at the start of their turn, so if you play the spell on the same turn, they're going to know. But, like the priest card, you get to choose, meaning you can choose a card that's going to be better for you than for your opponent. Maybe they're lower in health, so you take a Fireball, threatening face damage, or a Pyroblast, and they can't really use it as well. Or maybe they have a very wide board, and you get a Flame Strike and play it, and then you know they have a Flame Strike, so you can play around it a little with some larger minions. I think this card is really fun, really good, and I'm looking forward to drafting a whole lot of them. Next up, we have 3 mana spell, Tome Tampering, in Warlock, and it reads, shuffle 1-cost copies of cards in your hand into your deck, so that's minions and spells. Then discard your hand. Oh yeah, no, this card is terrible. You don't want to be doing that. You do not want to be doing that, unless there's some sort of insane discard synergy here where you can, like, redraw. Then, you know, this becomes kind of like a Luna's Pocket Galaxy type thing, but you get the draw right away, then maybe. But you don't ever want to draft this. Discarding your hand is not good in Arena. It's rather bad. It's rather bad all the time. Bad card, do not take. Next, we have another legendary 6 mana 4/7 Kael'thas Sin Strider. I see what you did there. Every third minion you play each turn costs 0. So this, of course, is after Kael'thas Sunstrider, which was every third spell you play costs 0. And it wasn't super good in Arena because it was really tough to get, you know, cheap spells and expensive spells and make it work. This, on the other hand, actually not as hard to make work. And it might be weirdly good for only a 6 mana 4/7 in the right deck. You gotta have like a U-shaped curve where you have a lot of light stuff, a lot of heavy stuff. I do that in Druid quite often. It could be something to look for, like with a ramp kind of Druid, where you play this and a 1-drop, because this counts as a minion itself. Unlike spells from before, this is a minion. Does it affect every third minion? It shouldn't matter if it's on the board yet or not, right? You could even play the second, and then it would be your third minion that turn that costs 0, surely. So you could play this, a 1-drop, slam down a 10, slam down a 7/7 taunt, Deathrattle Summon another 7/7 taunt, Colossal or something, you know? So I think this could be weirdly good in the right deck. Still a little bit inconsistent, and on its own kind of sucks. So probably not great, but better than the other Kael'thas, and something to keep your eye open for if you have a few light minions, a few heavy ones. Next, legendary minion for Demon Hunter, Crixus the Voracious. 4 mana, 7/7. That's a hefty stat line. Battlecry, discard your hand. Okay, we've talked about this. That's bad. Deathrattle, draw 3 cards. Okay, now we're talking. Getting some cards back. That's very interesting. Quite simply, this is an aggressive card. You want to play it in an aggro list because you want your hand to be gone by the time you play this. Or you want to cheat this out with Deathrattle synergy, which there are cards that can do that, of course, here. Razor Fen Beastmaster. Not 3 mana 3/3 Deathrattle, summon a 4-cost Deathrattle from your hand, and all of a sudden you're just drawing 3 cards with a 7/7 and not getting the Battlecry. Amazing card to cheat out. And maybe not the worst to play in just an aggro deck on its own. Discard 2, draw 3 after playing this. You might have to rely on a top deck, though, because it's not going to die right away. I'm intrigued. I think this is, as far as discarding your hand goes, this is probably the way to get it done. Looking forward to trying that out. It's either going to be just really terrible, or it's going to be, like, maybe surprising. I think it's gonna be decent. I think it's gonna be okay for Demon Hunter, aggro Demon Hunter. Next up, 4 mana, Burden of Pride is a warrior spell. Summon 3 1/3 jailers with taunt. If you have 20 or less health, give them +1/+1. On curve, you usually don't have 20 or less health. It's going to be a great anti-aggro tool in Constructed, but in Arena, unless you're playing a very aggro Demon Hunter, which maybe could be possible, or Hunter, it's usually not going to happen. So how good is this on its own? It reminds me of Demonic Assault. Instead of dealing 3 damage, you get another taunt. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think you look at this, compare it a little bit to Giggling Inventor. Obviously, the Divine Shields are a big deal, but I think this card is going to be quite strong. Other taunt synergies are possible, and once you maybe on turn 6, you play this as a summon 3 2/4s after they just put you to 20. Seems like a lot of stats in one card with an upside. I think that's going to be very strong. Next we have 3 Mana Tutu Weapon, not a good stat line. Let's see what we have here. After your hero attacks, draw until you have 3 cards. Magnifying Glass. Not a terrible card to play right before you play your Crisis the Voracious, as you draw 3 and then another 3 immediately. Pretty solid. Another card for your extreme aggro Demon Hunters. This reminds me a lot of Voracious Reader, where in a lot of decks it was just really bad, like this will be in the wrong deck, but in the right aggro list was critical and one of the defining cards. So keep your eye open for this if you've got a really, really nice light Demon Hunter curve. Lastly, we have a 2 mana spell from Hunter. It's Frenzied Fangs. Summon 2 2/1 bats, infuse 3, give them +1/+2. So, without the infusion, this card is just a 2 mana summon 2 2/1 bats, which is great. That's solid. We've got Twin Fin Twin, which admittedly has Rush. It makes it better, but the same stat line for 3 mana. Looking at like Murloc Tidehunter and looking at Maze Runner we just saw, this compares favorably to them. And then if you do get the Infuse, that's very strong. That's 2 mana 6/6. Is that what I'm looking at? 2 mana 6/6. The thing is, you're usually not going to be able to get this infusion on curve. So it's never going to be a turn 2 6/6. So you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. But that's fine. For the amount of stats you get here, this is an amazing card. We've already seen that 1 mana Vampire Hunter card that is going to help with infusion right off the bat. So maybe you're filling in those with some 1-drops. Maybe you're coming into one of those into a 2-drop, into another one of those, and another 2-drop. This comes down on 3, and you're just piling in stats nice and early in the game. Of course, the problem with Infusion Hunter is you often have to trade, so this is probably like a great early to mid-game card. Looks very strong, though. All right, everybody, there's another 21 cards in our Murder at Nathria Castle review. As usual, be sure to let me know what you think of these cards. What do you think? Crazy power level on some of these ones. Did I make any mistakes? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button for me, and I will see you in part number 5.